Okay. I'm Dimitris Zanakopoulos. I'm a member of Syriza. I used to be a member of the Central Committee of Synaspismos and the Secretary of Review for Synaspismos for 5 years, from 2004 to 2009. Right now I'm based in London. I'm doing my PhD. And that's the introduction. So, you all know that we had the elections on the 17th of June in Greece. And right now the situation in Greece is that in the process of forming a government between the Conservative Party of New Democracy, the Greek Socialist Party, PASOK, socialist now it's just a matter of speaking, and unfortunately the Democratic left, who scandalously decided to participate in this three-party government. Of course, this government comes as a result of a really exciting and hard conflict between the left and the right in Greece. I don't know if you know exactly the results of the last elections. New Democracy received the 29.6%. The coalition of the radical left, Syriza, for the first time in the Greek history after 1958, received the 26.8%, which means 1,650,000 votes, which is an immense number for the Greek left for the first time, as I said, till 1958, and the best performance of the Greek left in its history. Actually, we've never had a better result. PASOK received the 13%, whereas in 2009 it received the 42% of the votes. And then we had some smaller right-wing parties, and of course the Golden Dawn, which represents a grave danger not only for Greece but for Europe as well. And it comes as a result of the financial crisis and the debt crisis in Greece. They received the 6% of the votes, 6 point something, which means several 100,000 votes. And what you have to note here is that the Golden Dawn is not one of the populist right-wing parties as they emerged in Europe during the 90s and the aughts. It's something quite different. It's a national socialistic party. They are Nazis in the strong sense. They kill people, they kill immigrants, they function as a military organization, and the whole situation in Greece really is really reminiscent of the situation in Weimar during the 30s. The good thing is that right now the forces of the left have a really strong and a massive base and a really strong organizational ability. Right now the Greek left has, and I mean the coalition of the radical left, Syriza, Communist Party of Greece, and Andasia, which is the extra parliamentary left, I suppose that have more than 80,000 members, active militants, which is an immense number for the size of Greece. So the situation may be reminiscent of the Weimar period, but the relation of forces is not exactly the same. One could say that it's rather the opposite. But what we have to remember, and what I will try to explain, is that right now in Greece there is an open class war going on, with anything that this means. So during those elections, three major contradictions came to surface. and in a way determined the result. The first contradiction was the contradiction between young and old. Syriza, among the younger people, received more than 40% and came by far first. Whereas among the pensioners, the result was not that good. It was around 20 to 22%. There is another contradiction, the urban against the rural. In the big cities, Syriza was also by far the first political power, the first political force, with more than 40%, and especially in the poorest districts. Whereas in the villages, among the rural population, the result was not even close to that. And of course, the major contradiction was the contradiction between left and right. For the first time in the recent history of Greece, we had a major conflict between the powers that represent the bourgeoisie and the powers that represent the working class. It was a conflict between right and left. And all those contradictions were overdetermined absolutely by the major contradiction, the class contradiction. As I said, in the poorest districts of Athens, and among public sector workers, private sector workers, the unemployed and the students, Syriza was by far the first with more than 40%. The problem was among the older people, the rural population, and the upper strata of the working class, and of course the owners of enterprises, banks, ships, and so on and so forth. That is, we couldn't be and we wouldn't be first among people who still had something to lose. Because right now, it was these parts of the population that were really easily influenced, and I mean about, now I refer to the upper strata of the working class. Those parts of the population were really easily influenced by the threats of the media propaganda. Okay? Of course, the propaganda was implemented by the bourgeoisie and by the media, but the part that was more easily influenced by this propaganda were the upper strata of the working class, what we may call the petit bourgeoisie, the white-collar workers, not exactly the petit bourgeois, and so on and so forth. Now, about the propaganda, some comments. We had 4 facets of the propaganda against the forces of the left. The first were the media, that functioned exactly as an apparatus of the state. After the elections of the 6th May, on the 6th of May, until now, a massive attack against the forces of the left, the working class movement, any movement that is against austerity is implemented by the media. It is as if you watch the government representative talk from the television. It's unbelievable. The second facet of the propaganda are the employers, with no trust to their political representatives anymore. It is common knowledge that they organized assemblies in every bank, every enterprise, every city, every working place, trying to convict, threatening their employees not to vote for Syriza in those elections, because if they did, then they would close the banks, the employees would lose their jobs, and a possible victory of Syriza would be an index of the end of civilization as we knew it. The third facet was the propaganda by the EU officials and the European governments. led by Mrs. Merkel and Mr. Schäuble. Despite that, Syriza achieved to increase its influence and its percentage by 10% from the 16th of May to the 17th of June.
Sorry, who did you say? Merkel, led by Merkel and who?
Schäuble. Mr. Schäuble is the minister for the economic minister of Germany. Okay. So, despite all these attacks, Syriza achieved to increase its influence by 10%, which means around 600,000 votes in 1 month. And now, just allow me another 1 or 2 minutes. How was this achievement possible? First, some things about the objective conditions in Greece. Greece was one of the richest countries in the world until 2008. According to the OECD list published in 2007, we were the 22nd richest country in the world, with growth rates more than 3.5% a year after 2000. After the 2008 crisis, which was transformed into a public debt crisis, the picture changed rapidly and radically. The recession caused by the memoranda and the austerity policies was more than 20%. Led to a contraction of the economy of more than 20% since 2009. Right now, the unemployment is around 25%, with 1,200,000 unemployed. Among the young, the unemployment is more than 55%. And the cuts in the wages and the benefits are more than 32%. And not only in the public sector, but also in the private sector. The corruption of the politicians is not news anymore for any European citizen. The privatizations create even more chances for profit for capital, and the deregulation of the working relations with the abolition of collective bargaining for the first time in any European country created a more difficult situation for the working class. Those are the objective conditions in Greece, and this was a result that was produced in less than 3 years. So, now about, I don't know if I have some, I don't think I have any more time.
Half a minute.
This
austerity.
These subjective conditions wouldn't mean anything if there was not the subjective, if the subjective conditions, that is, the political forces of the left, that is, the political militants of the left, wouldn't do anything about it. And the good thing is that for the last 10 years, we had a massive rising of the movements in the student movement, the working class movements, which led to the explosion of July 2011 with the occupation of Syntagma Square and another 60 squares all over Greece. And it was this encounter of the political left with the movements that created the conditions for such a great result for the left, which opens the path for new struggles, for and even for gaining power for the left, which would be a development that could produce a political domino all over Europe. And this is exactly what we are working for. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.